topic on which I am going to talk about is weak and strong electrolytes. First, let us see what is an electrolyte. An electrolyte is a solution in which current is carried by ions. It is distinguished from a metallic conductor in which current is carried by electrons. Under the influence of electric field, ions move to their respective electrodes. In order to understand this, let us do a simple experiment. The apparatus used is called the conductivity apparatus. It consists of a cell having two carbon electrodes, and these carbon electrodes are taken from the used torchlight cells that are here. The outer layer is taken out, the carbon rods inside are taken out and are fixed on the wooden cardboard as shown here, and these two rods are connected in series to an electric bulb which is fixed into a socket, and also to the DC or AC. This is the conductivity apparatus which we are going to use to do this experiment. Now what I am going to do in this experiment is, I am taking these two electrodes, immersing these electrodes into the distilled water, and after doing that I will switch on the current, and let us see whether the bulb glows or not. Bulb does not glow. Now I remove these two electrodes, keep these two electrodes into the tap water. The bulb glows. What it indicates? The tap water contains impurities, and the ions are the impurities that are present. As I said that ions conduct electricity and therefore bulb glows, whereas distilled water does not contain ion impurities. Distilled water is ion free. That is the reason why we use distilled water for preparing the standard solutions. Having known that the distilled water is ion free and it should be used for preparing the solutions, I once again go back to the distilled water, immersing these two electrodes into the distilled water. Once again I will show you that the light does not glow. And now what I do is, I add potassium chloride, that is KCl, to the distilled water. And now after adding this one, I will stir the solution, and let us immerse these two electrodes into this KCl solution. The bulb glows. What it means? KCl solution or potassium chloride solution is an electrolyte. That means what the definition I have given, that an electrolyte is a solution which conducts electricity, is confirmed by this experiment. Having understood that the solution is an electrolyte, does it mean that there are solutions which are non-electrolytes, that means which do not conduct electricity? For that I do another experiment. I am taking these two electrodes, immersing them once again into the distilled water and switching it on. Bulb does not glow. Now what I do here is, I add sugar pellets into the distilled water. See carefully, I added them, and now naturally we have to stir them so that it goes into the solution. Having done that, I put back these electrodes into now the sugar solution. I switch it on, the light does not glow. What it means? That the sugar solution is a non-electrolyte, whereas KCl solution is an electrolyte which you have seen before. In the next experiment I am going to show you whether the electrolyte is weak or strong. Broadly speaking, electrolytes are divided into weak and strong electrolytes. How to say whether an electrolyte is weak? For that, I will do a small demonstration using acetic acid. Here is glacial acetic acid which I am taking into the beaker. And now I am immersing these two electrodes into the glacial acetic acid. I am switching it on. Bulb does not glow. Now what I do here is I am taking the distilled water and I am pouring this distilled water into the acetic acid. Watch carefully. Look at the bulb. Bulb starts glowing. See the brightness. It increases with the increase in dilution. That indicates that by adding water, acetic acid starts dissociating into ions and these ions conduct electricity. After adding water, acetic acid starts dissociating. There establishes an equilibrium between undissociated and dissociated particles, and the dissociation, that is, extent of dissociation, increases with the increase in the dilution. With the increase in the dilution, brightness will also increase. On the other hand, I will take now concentrated sulfuric acid, and here is concentrated sulfuric acid. I am pouring this one into the beaker. And now I place these electrodes into this concentrated sulfuric acid. You see the light glows. What does it mean? It means that concentrated sulfuric acid has ions, therefore it conducts electricity, whereas in the case of acetic acid it is not so unless it is diluted. That indicates that sulfuric acid is a strong electrolyte, acetic acid is a weak electrolyte.
Professor Shastri, I really enjoyed your interesting demonstrations.
Thank you.
But I would like to ask one question.
Yes.
Is there any theory to explain the behavior of these electrolytes? If there is any theory, let me know about it.
Oh, thank you. There is. It's a good question. I will explain in detail. In fact, to understand this theory of electrolytic dissociation, Arrhenius suggested a theory, and it is called as Arrhenius theory of incomplete dissociation. According to this theory, an electrolyte when dissolved in water is dissociated into particles, and they are called charged particles and they are called ions. When electric current is passed through the solution, these charged particles will go to their appropriate electrode. The number of cations will become equal to the number of anions. The essence of Arrhenius theory is this. According to Arrhenius theory, an electrolyte need not be completely dissociated. Instead, it may be incompletely dissociated. There exists an equilibrium between dissociated and undissociated particles. Now here we are finding an equilibrium between acetic acid and water, giving rise to acetate ion and hydronium ion. Before water is added, it will remain as acetic acid. No acetate ion or hydronium ion are present. When water is added, acetic acid will be dissociated, giving rise to acetate ion and hydronium ion. How long this dissociation will take place? It will take place until an equilibrium will be established, and this is called a dynamic equilibrium. And this equilibrium will give us an indication that when acetic acid is dissolved in water, we have in the solution dissociated particles, undissociated particles, and they are in equilibrium. For this, let us take a general electrolyte, that is AB. AB is the electrolyte which is dissociated in water, giving rise to A plus B minus. There exists an equilibrium between undissociated particle AB and dissociated particles A plus and B minus. The extent of dissociation is measured in terms of degree of dissociation. What is this degree of dissociation? To understand this, let us go to mathematical expression for the degree of dissociation represented by alpha, which is equal to lambda v by lambda infinity. Lambda v is the equivalent conductivity at V liters, lambda infinity is the equivalent conductivity at infinite dilution. According to Arrhenius' theory of electrolytic dissociation, conductivity depends on number of ions present in the solution. In the case of weak electrolytes, number of ions present in the solution will increase with the increase in the dilution, whereas in the case of strong electrolyte like sulfuric acid, number of ions remain the same. Hence, Arrhenius' theory of partial dissociation or incomplete dissociation can explain the behavior of weak electrolytes, not the strong electrolytes, as the strong electrolytes are completely dissociated at all concentrations.
Is there any other theory to describe the behavior of strong electrolytes, Professor?
Yes, there is. In order to understand the theories of electrolytes, another theory developed, and it is called as interionic attraction theory. Before we study this interionic attraction theory, let us see how equivalent conductivity varies with the concentration. Variation of equivalent conductivity with the concentration is given by Kohlrausch empirical law as is shown here. Lambda is the equivalent conductivity, which is equal to lambda infinity, that is the equivalent conductivity at infinite dilution, minus A root C, where A is a constant for a given solvent. C is the concentration expressed in terms of gram equivalents per liter. According to this law, when equivalent conductivity is plotted versus root C, we expect a straight line. In the case of strong electrolyte, that is KCl, we got a straight line here as shown in the figure. But in the case of acetic acid, there is a sudden fall of equivalent conductance at lower concentrations, and thereon it became a straight line. Acetic acid is a weak electrolyte, KCl is a strong electrolyte, which we have seen. According to Arrhenius' theory, falling off of equivalent conductance with the increase in concentration is due to incomplete dissociation, which is applicable to acetic acid. Whereas in the case of KCl, which is a strong electrolyte, which is dissociated at all concentrations, Arrhenius' theory is inapplicable. Therefore, Arrhenius' theory may explain the behavior of weak electrolytes but not the behavior of strong electrolytes. According to Arrhenius' theory of electrolytic dissociation, equivalent conductivity depends on number of ions present in the solution. If number of ions decrease, equivalent conductivity will also decrease, and with the increase in concentration, number of free ions will decrease. Therefore, equivalent conductivity decreases in the case of weak electrolyte, and that's how Arrhenius' theory can explain the behavior of weak electrolytes. But in the case of strong electrolytes, it is supposed strong electrolytes are completely ionized at all reasonable concentrations. Therefore, Arrhenius' theory cannot explain the behavior of strong electrolytes.
Could you please elaborate the behavior of strong electrolytes on the basis of interionic attraction theory?
Yes, I will. According to interionic attraction theory, equivalent conductivity depends on not only the number of ions but also the velocity of an ion. Strong electrolytes, even in their solid state, exist as ions, positive and negative, held together by forces of electrostatic attraction. When a salt is dissolved in water, it is reasonable to think that it will be dissociated into positive and negative ions. Hence, the number of ions will be the same whatever may be the concentration. When the number of ions remain the same, why the equivalent conductivity decreases with the increase in concentration in the case of strong electrolytes such as KCl? For this, interionic attraction theory has been developed. Therefore, when the number of ions remain the same at all concentrations, the falling off of equivalent conductance with the increase in concentration must be due to the decrease in the velocity of a moving ion. This is the basis of interionic attraction theory. According to this theory, in a dilute solution, ions are free apart and they carry current. When the concentration is increased, ions come closer together. A positive ion is surrounded by more of opposite charge, that is negative ion, and a negative ion is surrounded by more of positive ions. Because of this, the velocity of an ion will be decreased. Hence, the equivalent conductivity will decrease with the increase in concentration. The quantitative treatment of this is given by Debye-Huckel theory. The first step in the Debye-Huckel approach is to select arbitrarily any one ion out of assembly and call it a reference ion or central ion. As a consequence of the electrical attraction, a central ion is surrounded by ions more of opposite charge, giving rise to ionic atmosphere or ionic cloud. The charge on the central ion is equal to the charge on the ionic atmosphere with opposite sign. A positively charged central ion is surrounded by ionic cloud of negatively charged. A negatively charged central ion is surrounded by positively charged ionic cloud. In the absence of a driving force or external EMF, ionic cloud is spherically symmetrical around the central ion. When the ions are subject to a driving force opposite charge and it is moving in the opposite direction to that of central ion, there is further decrease in the velocity of the central ion. This decrease in the velocity is due to electrophoretic effect, and this electrophoretic effect is given the name analogous to that of movement of colloidal particles under the influence of electric field. When the ions are free, they move with a velocity that is represented by V0. With the increase in concentration, a central ion is surrounded by opposite charge, that is ionic atmosphere or ionic cloud. With the result, there is a decrease in the velocity of V0, and this decrease in velocity is shown in the figure. The decrease in the velocity is due to the relaxation effect that is represented by VR. Another factor that is responsible for the retardation of the velocity, that is due to electrophoretic effect represented by VE. The remaining part is represented by Vd, that is the drift velocity. Now we can see that the drift velocity is equal to V0 minus VR plus VE. Under the influence of electric field in a concentrated solution, the velocity of an ion is not equal to V0, but it is less than V0. This causes the decrease in the equivalent conductivity of the solution. Supposing the electrolyte is completely ionized, the magnitude of these two effects, that is relaxation effect and electrophoretic effect, have been taken into consideration. An equation has been derived and it is called as Debye-Huckel-Onsager equation, or simply Onsager equation. By expressing the magnitude of relaxation effect and electrophoretic effect in terms of properties of the ions and solvent, and assuming ionization to be complete, the equation that is given here is derived for a univalent electrolyte like KCl. This equation, lambda equals to lambda infinity minus A plus B lambda infinity into root C. In this, A and B are constants for a given solvent that depend only on the temperature. This means that the plots of lambda against root C should give a straight line of the slope A plus B lambda infinity. The results are in agreement up to concentrations of about 2 into 10 to the power of minus 3 gram equivalents per liter.
Is there any other way of classifying the electrolytes, sir?
Yes. Historically, the electrolytes are classified on the basis of behavior of a solute in a particular solvent, that is water. Hence, we have taken this topic as weak and strong electrolytes. If the solvent differs from water, the electrolytes are classified as true electrolytes and potential electrolytes. A true electrolyte is a strong electrolyte. A potential electrolyte is a weak electrolyte. A classification into true and potential electrolyte is a modern one. In this classification, it is the structure that is important, not the nature of the solvent. Finally, I summarize this video program. Number 1. What is an electrolyte has been defined. Number 2. The importance of distilled water in the place of tap water in preparing standard solution has been given experimentally. Number 3. The difference between weak and strong electrolyte has been demonstrated, and we have seen how they differ from one to another. Number 4. To understand the behavior of these electrolytes, Arrhenius suggested a theory called Arrhenius theory of incomplete dissociation. Arrhenius theory successfully explained the behavior of weak electrolytes but failed to explain the behavior of strong electrolytes. In order to understand the behavior of strong electrolyte, interionic attraction theory has been developed. Number 5. De-Broglie model and Onsager equation have been given to understand the dependence of equivalent conductivity on the concentration. With the help of this equation and also with the help of this De-Broglie theory, one can understand the behavior of electrolytes as a whole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.